Good morning, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Happy Veterans Day. I hope everyone can hear me well. We are going to get started here in just a minute. Yes, and thank you for the confirmation. That sounds good. Okay. Very good. Cool. Let's get started. Again, good morning, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. We certainly appreciate all that you do. So please enjoy your day today. As we look at the markets here, there's a few important things this morning that I'd like to go through. So for those of you guys that are here for the first time, thanks for being here. I'm Serge Berger from thesteadytrader.com. This is our morning call, and we're going to take the next 10 to 15 minutes to go through some things that we deem to be quite important as far as the markets are concerned. First of all, I want to quickly just talk about something that's probably not as obvious, I think, as some people might expect it to be, and that has to do with the economic data. So let me just quickly bring something up here so you can see this. We obviously still have the U.S. government being shut, but whenever that opens again, then it sounds like it's sooner rather than later. Who knows? But that's what it sounds like. There's going to be a ton of economic data that's going to come our way when that happens. So keep that in mind. So that could cause moves in whatever direction, I don't know. But I would just be mindful of that. So we could see an absolute avalanche of economic data that's going to come out. Because, again, of the backlog that we've had. So that's number one. The next thing I would like to point out is the turnaround Tuesday phenomena. So for those of you guys that are members of the Inner Circle, and certainly if you're in trade ops, our members there, we talk a lot about this phenomena that can happen, which is essentially that on Tuesdays, the U.S. equity market can do the opposite of what it did on Monday. Not the exact inverse, but directionally speaking. So if you were to look at the S&P, which of course yesterday was up 1.55-ish%, then the expectation based on that metric would be that today would be some sort of a down day. Again, it's just more setting a bit of perspective than trying to give you, a specific trade on that, but that would be something that I would expect. There's a couple individual things I want to point out as well. First of all, yesterday's move, if you look at the market yesterday, you will notice that yesterday's move, and I put this into our trade ops members area as well for those people that are in there. Yesterday's move was once again, for the most part, led by a few stocks. And I know there's a lot of people out there kind of disputing this market breadth issue. I don't know how you can. It's the percent. What we focus on is the percentage, right, of stocks. Is the impact that these few stocks have. So first of all, if you just look at this part here, this may be a little bit difficult to see. So maybe if you squint a little bit. So yesterday, technology stocks were up 2.6%. That's the sector on the S&P. The next in line was consumer discretionary stocks, and after that, communication stocks. Well, do you know what consumer discretionary stocks and communication stocks have in common with technology stocks? They're all technology stocks, right? So, for example, Google was moved into another sector, and Meta, they're all tech sectors. So it's masked once again, what's happening. But the best way to look at it, which is this does not lie, is by looking at what's called an equity factor. So you look at, large, mid, small cap, and then value, core, and growth. And you can see that large cap growth was the one that was what led the day yesterday by far. It wasn't even close. And of course, that is basically those three sectors. Okay. So give us a quick yes in the chat box if that's helpful for you to understand, right? There's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there right now, particularly towards year end. A lot of people trying to talk their own book. A lot of analysts jumping on other analysts' backs because they don't want to stand alone. But this is something that I continuously want to point out. Does not mean the market has to crash. Remember, that's a very different thing. But it is notable that once again, we're seeing that market concentration. So I just wanted to point that out. And again, thus we also today now have turnaround Tuesday. I don't know if that's going to happen. Now, a couple individual stocks that I certainly would watch today. One of them is Meta. Meta's chief AI guy apparently quit or is in the process of leaving the company, which I thought is interesting. So I would pay attention to that. Another one is Rigetti, RGTI, and the company actually is about to have its earnings call, like literally right now this morning. The stock is trading down, not much. Here's the live chart of Rigetti here overnight. So this is one of those quantum computing stocks that a lot of people have a lot of high hopes for. So let's see how this one acts today after earnings. I don't know, right? I'm open-minded, but the earnings call just started, so let's see how well this stock can hold up after that. So these are the reason I point this out, because these are the kind of names that are giving people a lot of hope, right? And if they were to falter, that would be a bit concerning, at least in my view. So that's Rigetti. A couple other stocks I want to point out, individual names. One of them is SanDisk. So this is the kind of stuff that is, eyebrow raising at the very least. Here's a stock that's essentially up about 433% plus over the past couple of months. These guys make little memory chips that go in your, devices. And they make a bunch of stuff, right? And the only way that we can really trade a stock like that is with momentum, right? So if you're using momentum indicators, like for example, our clients tend to use the trender indicators. So I can show you that here. So SNDK would be the ticker for that. So the way we want to trade a name like that would be with momentum, right? So you can see we received a momentum buy signal on the 12th of August, and the stock is now up since then 480%. So these are pure momentum plays. Just keep in mind that they have to be looked at as momentum, right? And they really are momentum names, meaning they can change, right? And so if you're gonna trade a stock like this, then I would really urge you to use a proper indicator for that and understand that momentum is fleeting. It doesn't, it's not a trend. So that's SNDK. Another note, totally separate, just quickly broadening the whole idea. One of our big themes for 2026, which we're talking a lot to clients about, is commodities. So this is the Bloomberg Commodity Index. I've mentioned it here before over the past week or so. And speaking of which, we are actually doing a session in our educational session this week. We're talking about sector and group rotation and how we like to play that. And so one of the big rotations that we're seeing taking place right now, continuing to see, is into commodities. And so if you're interested in learning how we play these major rotation moves, when major trends start and when they end, make sure you join us this week in our educational session. The session is on Wednesday, so that will be tomorrow at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific time. And we're going to show you how we can find these major trends when they start or when they end, right? That's important to note as well. So the link for that is in the chat box. My colleague Christian was kind enough to type that in there. So hopefully we'll see all you guys in there. And again, commodities is just is one of those things that we have a a high degree of conviction on. I don't like to use that word, but I think it gets the point across the best. The next chart I want to show you is something that I think is concerning, that I realize it doesn't really hit home until it does. And it's a bit blurry, this chart, so I'm going to apologize ahead of time. These are the drawdowns that the S&P 500 has had since the April lows. And I know you may not be able to read this. I'm going to read them to you. We had a 2% drawdown, a 3.3%, a 3%, a 3.3, a 2, a 2.3, a 2, a 3.2, and a 3% drawdown. What's important to note about that is none of these were 5%. Okay. Typically speaking, the statistic that I keep coming across is that every few months or so, you tend to get a 5% pullback. The market is no longer able to do that because of the passive investing market cap concentration we have in the S&P 500. When that ends, it's going to be really, really terrible. I don't know when that ends, and that's not my forecast here to make it end. I'm just telling you that is going to be a big, big problem at some point down the road. But I would expect at least a 5 to 10% correction to have real soon. I don't know if that's going to happen this side of the calendar year. I don't know. I understand the seasonal tailwinds that everyone is everyone is sort of taking their, and listen, I'm the first one to always talk about that. It's just that this year everyone's talking about it, which is why I'm much more concerned about it than I would be usually. Okay. Next one is SoftBank. I don't know how many of you know who SoftBank is, but SoftBank is one of the largest tech investors in the world. And the reason I want to point it out is because they just sold their entire stake in NVIDIA, and they were one of the early investors. So, as they say, probably nothing. And notice my sarcasm. It's not because NVIDIA is a bad company, but the bid is now gone from SoftBank. So just another thing to point out. Again, it probably doesn't resonate with many people, but it is something that I would want to at least be on the record of having pointed it out. And by the way, if you're wondering what's the correlation of SanDisk to the NASDAQ 100, if I were to overlay the NASDAQ 100 chart to the chart price of SoftBank, which is a large Japanese tech investment company, it's essentially the same chart, right? Not exactly day for day, week for week, but it's essentially the same chart, right? SanDisk is not in the data bank, in the database, William. What you can do is you can pull it up on TradingView, and SNDK, you'll find it there. We're going to add it to the database at some point in the next few weeks. Are there any questions, comments that I can ask about? Look, OpenAI is a whole nother thing. I really don't want to go into a whole thing about OpenAI, because I think what's going on there is a lot of smoke and mirrors, to be honest with you. I would personally be very careful with what's coming out of there from an investor's perspective. I love the technology, but that's a different story than what's going on from an investor's perspective. But yes, the short answer is yes. They're doing stuff with SoftBank. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm moving over to our Market Rover member session here in a few minutes. So all of you guys that are Market Rover members, we will see you over there, and that should be a good busy day today. Again, remember, today is potentially Turnaround Tuesday, which basically just means that the S&P 500 and U.S. stocks could do the opposite of what they did yesterday. Again, not exactly inversely one for one, but directionally speaking. So we'll see if that happens today. Just as a risk management exercise, thought I would point that out for those of you guys that find this helpful. Please, please, please give us a thumbs up like in the video. Every single one here, if you give us a thumbs up like, it really helps us to be able to continue to do this morning call. Otherwise, we unfortunately do have to shut it down. And please make sure you subscribe to the channel. Tell everyone you know if you found any value at all here today. And with that, have a great start to the day, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow morning. Take care.